Irrigation District Board for February 14th, 2024. We'll begin with the invocation. Mr. Sloan, would you please lead us?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting us all come together and bless this day for us all, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Tharp, would you please lead us to the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Brings us to the introduction of guests. We'll start with the guest in the room, front row to my left.
Good morning. Thanks for the invitation. Larry Bosco, Bureau of Reclamation, El Paso office. David Lutz, Martin Lutz, PT.
Kevin Narvaez, Alpha Beef Irrigation District. Billy Finn, US IBWC.
Jerry Sugarland, Flat River.
Actually, Carlson, EBID. Ana Donahue, Engineering Department, EBID.
Juan Caballero, EBID. Jim Fleming, Flat River. Ralph Woodford, Citizen.
Chris Kelly, Citizen.
Max Ankles, Mexico Department of Ag.
Caitlin Owens, the State Engineer's Office.
J.R. Hennessy, State Engineer, District 4.
Sharon Byron, EBID. Morning, everyone. I'm the Stifler, US IBWC.
Steve Hernandez, Council for all Bad Irrigation District.
We have one guest that just entered. If you introduce
Michael
yourself.
Riley, Office State Engineer.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you would please announce the guests that are online.
Yes, Mr. President, we have Anthony Cullen, Brenda Gonzalez, Greg Cathy, Dr. Bill King, Rebecca Clark, and Cheryl Smith. And that will be all, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the approval of minutes. We will start with the minutes from the regular board meeting on January 9th, 2024. Are there corrections or additions to the minutes which wish to be noted? I have several. On the first page. Middle of the page, the paragraph that begins, Director Robirosa received 5 votes for. It should read Vice President as opposed to President. On the second page, third to the last paragraph, the last sentence has a double negative. It says, does not believe there are no. Recommend striking the word no. On page 6 of the minutes, second paragraph, middle of the paragraph, it says President Davier stated his thoughts are for general issues. In making a mistake, it is efficient. It should read it is sufficient. The fourth to the last paragraph. The second sentence reads, President Davier stated it is the preview. It should read purview. In the last sentence, the last paragraph, third line from the bottom, procurement law under 20,000 is diminished. It should say de minimis. On the title for that paragraph, it says recruitment, succession planning of state lobbyists continued. It should simply say recruitment of state lobbyists continued. Those are all of the corrections I noted. They have all been addressed with the secretary. If there are no others, I will accept the motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Whenever we approve the minutes as amended.
I have a motion from Mr. Ludwig, seconded by Mr. Garai to approve the minutes as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. The next three sets of minutes for January 15th, 17th, and 18th cover the limited open session portion of our board training. They are all essentially the same. Were there any corrections to any of those three sets of minutes which to be noted? Hearing none. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes from January 15th, 17th, and 18th.
I move to approve the minutes from those meetings.
I have a motion, Mr. Roby Rosa, to approve the minutes from those 3 dates.
I second.
A second by Mr. Sloan. Any discussion? Any president, excuse me. I have a motion and a second. Hearing no discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Being the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries. We have the minutes for January 29th, 2024 on the agenda. They were not included in your board packet. They were not ready in time to be included with your board packet, so they have not been reviewed. So we will be postponing here, we will be postponing approving those minutes until the March board meeting. Brings us to the calendar of events, Mr. Essling.
Thank you, Mr. President. In February, tomorrow, the 15th, the Stormwater Coalition will be having their meeting in Hatch at the Community Center. On the 19th of February, the district is closed to observe that holiday. There will be a special board meeting, for the board, scheduled for the management recruitment process. That will begin at 9 o'clock on the 20th. On the 21st, our flight leaves very early, for Reno, for those attending that Family Farm Alliance conference, and we'll all just meet down there since we're at different areas of the valley that need to be in search. We'll just see you at the airport. We have your flight information already handed out to you. And that, Mr. Chair, or Mr. President, is the February agenda. In March, we have at this point the board meeting set for the 13th. Again, the Stormwater Coalition would be on Thursday at 1:30. We do have a U.S. Supreme Court hearing in Washington, D.C. on the Texas v. New Mexico case on the 20th. And we will probably, those that will be attending will be Greg and Abiel, Samantha, and myself. We will leave on the 18th and have a full day in DC on the 19th, have a hearing on the 20th, attend the hearing on the 20th, and return on the 21st. And that is it, Mr. President, for the month of March.
Thank you very much, Mr. Essling. So we have traveled for 4 individuals to the Supreme Court hearing. I don't recall approving those. I don't recall reading them in the minutes. And so we need a motion to approve travel for 2 board members and 2 members of the EBID staff and contractors to attend that.
I move that we approve the travel for the board members and EBA.
So I have a motion from Mr. Garai to approve the travel for 2 board members and 2 members of EBID staff to attend. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded from Mr. Fleischolt. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Being the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries. That brings us to I'm sorry, are there any questions regarding the calendar of events? I want to note for many of you, this may be the first you're hearing that we have a special board meeting scheduled for the 20th. That is next Tuesday. That is our initial meeting with Mr. Pauly pursuant to his contract for the recruitment process of the next manager for the district. It's scheduled for 9 a.m. My expectation and Mr. Pauly's expectation is it will last approximately 2 hours. The scope of that meeting is to define the role that board members wish to assign to that position. Salary requirements for that role, and whether or not the board wishes to use a contract for employing that individual. Those are expected to be topics of discussion. Any questions regarding that meeting? Use water resources. Dr. King. So I can't hear you, Dr. King, if you're speaking. I can see your presentation.
Yeah, I'm just getting set up. Pardon me. Can you hear me all right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Well, it's been kind of a busy little month, so let's get into it. First off, last month I gave you numbers for the end of year project accounting for 2023 and an initial allocation for 2024. And in going through this, there was something that didn't feel right. And when going through the spreadsheet with Raphael, we found an error that had gotten introduced. Actually, the error was introduced back in late 2020 or early 2021, but it never made a difference until the end of 2023 because it was a cap on how far out we allocate. And if we get a chance with the spreadsheet, as we are revamping it, I'll explain to you where that came. It did work in EBID's favor. The net impact was about 31,000 on our carryover going into 2024, and a total of about 43,000, I believe it was, in our January 15th allocation. Again, what it was doing was allocating water beyond 790,000 acre feet. It was just, there was a cell reference to the wrong cell. Once that was corrected, it all worked out fine. So these are revised numbers over what I presented last month. Because this is a pretty major error to have crept into our spreadsheet, we're doing some major rework, both in reorganizing the spreadsheet so it's a little easier to follow and to debug, and also locking things down so formulas don't get changed. But this then is our carryover. I believe I told you 51,000 or so, 52,000 for EBID carryover last year. You see that's gone up. EP1 has gone down by about 51,000 acre feet. They had announced a full allotment, and they'll still make that, as you'll see when we get into looking at the current numbers. Charges didn't change, release didn't change, so the diversion ratio didn't change. And I do stress that these are very close to final form, but they have not been officially approved. The revision has not been officially approved by the allocation committee. We've all seen it. We all know all about it. We've, been through it in close detail. But as we are revamping the spreadsheet now, I don't have final approval from everybody on it just yet. These are our current storage conditions as of February 12th, which was the most recent data I had as of early this morning. We're up over 500,000 acre feet in Elephant Butte, about 12,000 in Caballo. I will say that reclamation is going to start releasing water. Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the 15th, so tomorrow, they'll start releasing water from Elephant Butte into Caballo, and that is basically building Caballo up for the initial release March 8th. That gives us about 520 in storage. We've got 8,000 acre feet of San Juan Chama water. So of that 520, about 512 would be classified as usable. We then have not releasable water, which are the dead pools in Elephant Butte and Caballo, plus 5,000 evaporation. However, that San Juan Chama water will fill the dead storage. It'll fill 8,000 of the 10,000 storage requirement in Elephant Butte. So that nets out to about 19,000. Therefore, we've got a seasonal supply we're looking at about 493,000 at this point. And as of the last few days, its water is coming in. Again, this is the net inflow. This is not accounting for evaporation or bank storage or anything like that. It's just how much net water is coming into Elephant Butte. And at this point, that's about 1,000 acre feet per day. James and I attended a sort of a river meeting with Reclamation and MRGCD and several of the other agencies. And the plan right now is that MRGCD will start charging up their system on February 26th, which is coming up pretty quick here. And they'll start delivering to their users in mid-March. So what that basically means is you've got 1,000 1,000 acre feet per day coming in now. That will drop very precipitously once MRGCD comes on. The end of year accounting that I showed you here, this is based on October 31st conditions. I did take a look. Again, this is a hypothetical. It's preliminary. Based on January 15th conditions. This is one that has been looked at by the allocation committee, and we will be approving something. I would expect only very minor changes, if any at all, probably not. But what we're seeing here is that EBID's allocation, we had the 83,000 carryover plus 49,000 of this year's water, plus 64,000 of this year's water would leave us at, say, 83 plus 64 leaves us with about 147,000, call it on 48. EP1 with the inflow that came in between October 31st and January 15th would be at about 225. And so if we take our 148, spread it out over 90,640 acres with a 55% conveyance efficiency, that would be a potential allotment of about 11 inches. I did take the spreadsheet and run it for conditions as of February 12th, and that put EBID at about 160,000 acre feet, which would be 12 inches in our allocation at this point. Any questions on that? I'd stop here. I know that's a lot to absorb. We were talking smaller allocations last month, but there's a little bit more water and correction of that error. So we're up to 11 as of January 15th and looking like 12 inches as of February 12th. I'm not particularly recommending an allotment just yet because I do need to get these finalized through the allocation committee. Okay, moving right along. Looking at the river, you see that we are chugging along up and down the river. It varies quite a bit, but something like 70% of average flow for this day of the year February 14th. Expect this to drop off very quickly as MRGCD comes on. You see MRGCD is sitting down there at 3 CFS, which is essentially nothing. The Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority is diverting 91 CFS and returning 80 CFS, which is pretty typical for their operations at this time of year. Looking at the snowpack upstream, this is actually improved significantly from last month. If you compare the numbers, I think we were down in the high 60s last month for Upper Rio Grande. You see that's up to 91% snow water equivalent. This is due to those last couple of storms, and we'll take a look at the SNOTEL graph in just a minute here. But things are basically up to about average on the the Rio Chama and the Sangre de Cristos. The Jemez is at about 126,000. That's a very nice percentage, but frankly, it isn't very much water that represents. The one that represents the most water here is the Upper Rio Grande, which is everything north of the Colorado state line. Looking at it in map form, this up here is the Rio Grande headwaters, which is everything upstream of the Colorado state line. You see that in this map, it's slightly different basin delineations than the previous table, but they're running about 90%, 116 between the state line and Otoe Gauge, 137, very impressive, between Otoe Gauge and the Elephant Butte Dam, and then 141 from Elephant Butte Dam down. And it would be nice if these numbers were flipped north to south, because the big water lives up here, the small water lives down here. So we've got a high percentage of less water as you go south. Do note that the SNOTEL, the green you see here from the individual stations, a little greener in the San Juan Mountains, a little more earth colored on the Sangre de Cristos, which is consistent with what we saw last year when those atmospheric rivers were blowing through. The precipitation was very much favoring the west side of the San Luis Valley. The Sangre de Cristos in New Mexico are doing great. In fact, if I lean over and look out the window, I can just see the tops of some of those. So there's some good snow out there. Well, this is what that 90% on the Rio Grande headwaters, so everything north of the state line, looks like. The black line you see here is this year. The red line is last year, which was a good snow year. The green that you see is the daily median. And so you see we are sitting here at 90% of the daily median as of right now. Not too far from where we were last year, but last year we got into some very good systems coming through with those atmospheric rivers blowing in through California into our area. They've kind of already done that. That's what this step up here is. And I'm expecting a flatter line. I'll talk a little bit about where things are fitting in just a minute here, but that's, you can see these last few storms that have gone through did certainly help us out a whole lot. But I am expecting, and I think the various weather services and such are looking at a bit of a flat line, certainly for the next few days. Speaking of, this is going out more than just the next few days, but looking at the February 21st to 27th outlook. This was issued yesterday, so this is relatively current. You see we're kind of neutral in our area on precipitation, going from wet in the northwest to dry in the southeast. High temperature or warmer than normal temperatures throughout. We had been running a little bit cooler with these last few storms, but that's expected to warm up. Looking at the March, April, May, so looking at the 3 upcoming months here, this is an older forecast that was released on January 18th. But you see that we are neutral throughout the Rio Grande watershed on both precipitation and on temperature, which means it'll be wetter than normal or drier than normal, and it'll be warmer than normal or colder than normal, which basically it's saying flip a coin. So there's not an indication of a lot of moisture coming into the area in the near future. More like it'll just be your typical average March, April, May. Looking at our drought monitor, this is from January 2nd. And if we look at the change from January 2nd, we're sitting here right here in New Mexico up to the current. You see a little bit of easing in the Rio Grande watershed, according to the drought monitor. Still some form of abnormally dry down to extreme drought throughout the Rio Grande watershed. The drought outlook is kind of, again, sort of neutral. A little bit of an improvement, a little bit of persistence in the Rio Grande, mostly persistence. So basically what the Climate Prediction Center is saying is that they don't see any major improvement in the drought conditions through as far as April 30th. The ENSO, or El Nino, is getting kind of interesting. We appear to see the end of our current El Nino cycle. We are still in it. However, you see, if you're getting used to this graph, time going from last year up at the top down to the present down at the bottom. And we're looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies, how much warmer or colder the sea surface is from normal. And you see the El Nino, which is this big red blotch here. Notice it peaked right about Christmas, which is why it is named El Nino, for the Christ child that shows up around Christmas. Someone forgot to put my phone on silent, sorry. It did peak right around Christmas as usual. La Nina does too. They both peak around Christmas. But now we see fading, and you see now that they're for the first, this is the first month where they are forecasting La Nina formation in June through August of 2024. So that's what ENSO is doing. The forecast, the February 1st forecast for unregulated flow, March through July, which is the spring runoff, just looking at it. Again, let me explain that these are probabilities of exceedances across the top here. And so what this is saying is, for example, just looking at the 50%, we've got a 50% chance of getting more than 245,000 acre feet at Otoe gauge, and a 50% chance of getting less. So that's sort of your flip a coin number. San Marcial is down at 70,000 acre feet probability of exceedance. It means we've got a 50% chance of getting 70,000 or more, 50% chance of getting 70,000 or less. These are down from last month. And you might wonder, well, we had, those big storms come through during this last month. Why did the forecasts go down? It's a fact of life. Otoe was at, I think, about 255 last month for 50%, and San Marcial was at 103. So they've gone down, significant portion. We're now looking at 50% chance of getting at least 43% of normal at Otoe, and a 50% chance of getting 20% of average at San Marcial. And of course, we key in on the San Marcial number. That's not looking so good. I will say that the difference between the 90 and the 10% did also get narrower, because as you get closer in time, your estimates get better and better because you're forecasting less time out. But to illustrate what drives why this is happening, I went and pulled the snow charts for 2020 through 2022. And you'll see that the green, again, is the median. It's the same median we were looking at before. We've got 2020 in purple, 2021 in orange, and 2022 in blue. And you see they're all hovering right around average or median snowpack levels. So those are years where we had 109% of peak snow water equivalent. These are daily medians. 119% in 2021 and 99% in 2022. So in the ballpark of your typical snowpack year. But if you look at the runoff that actually showed up at Otoe and San Marcial, they are far below anything approaching average. You're only getting maybe half of the median at San Marcial, sorry, at Otoe. And look, in 2020, even though we had 109% of peak snowpack, only 4% of actual runoff showed up at San Marcial. So we're looking at half at Otoe and a third at San Marcial. This is the nature of the runoff processes. The watershed is tending to be warmer and drier, more arid, basically, in these current years. And so that is driving a marked decrease in the runoff for a given level of snowpack, particularly when you start to get down at the lower ends, because you can think of it as you're losing your variable cost. Well, the excess, if you're above average, you've got excess to provide runoff. Here, you're getting down to where your runoff can really collapse abruptly as you get into these lower snow levels. So in conclusion, we are revamping this spreadsheet, and I hope to have at least a quick opportunity for a quick workshop with you to run through the new one. I think it'll be a whole lot more coherent than the old one, which, by the way, the old one is, most of it is 16 years old today. We signed the operating agreement paperwork on Valentine's Day back in 2008, and then developed the spreadsheet starting from that point going forward. We're sitting on 11-inch range as of January 15th and 12 inches as of middle of February. What I will do when we get the spreadsheet, the revamped spreadsheet, fully verified and validated, we'll do an update to probably the middle of February, and have an allocation then to base our official initial allotment on. But you can see the ballpark we're in right now. We're looking at your fairly neutral current conditions and forecasts. We're about median, about average right now, and not a real strong signal one way or the other for the remainder of the snow season. However, that median snowpack does lead to lower than median runoff. So it is healthy to be a little bit conservative about expectation runoffs at this point, just because there's no evidence that would suggest that we're going to have a banner year. If we get a big old bunch of snowstorms like we did last year, we will definitely alter our expectations accordingly. But what we are likely looking at then is an allotment on the order of 12 to 14 inches. I don't see us getting past 14 inches unless we get a big bunch of storms, and then it still has to melt and get into the reservoir. So 12 to 14, but I'm definitely kind of leaning towards the 12-inch range here, where this initial allocation may essentially be it. And with that, I will throw it open for questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. King. Questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you, Dr. King. Mr. Narvaez, there you are, Mr. Narvaez.
I can't stand up any taller. Morning, everybody. Just to give you an idea, of what Dr. King was presenting there and kind of what we start to look at as far as planning. I know we're not there yet because the numbers aren't official. But just to give you an idea, if we do get to, we're basically following the model of last year as far as the allocation looks so far. So just to give you an idea of what that looks as far as start dates and those kind of things, I know we're a little bit maybe ahead of the game on that. We may not, are not ready for that until we get official allotment, but just to give you an idea of something to think about maybe till the next board meeting or however this board feels they want to discuss it further today. But if we're looking at current numbers that Dr. King just put in, said that in February we have about 12 inches of water. What I wanted to do is kind of take you to this model that I worked up here, and this is taking. Excuse me?
Will you share your screen, please?
Yeah,
Thank
sure will. Good catch. Where is Alright. Can everybody see that okay? So here's basically the numbers that we've used in the model that we use in the past to kind of determine what the length of season looks like, start dates, end dates, and those kind of things. Right now, I'm just highlighting the 12-inch area because that's what Dr. King had presented. Last year, we did work with the 14-inch allotment. And what this does here is basically we use the water right acres per our main diversions and use an average CFS, which is basically our water order that we do on average. These do fluctuate, depends on the demand, obviously, but on an average, these are what they use. Approximately 1,000 CFS on release on average, 2,000 acre feet a day. Taking that 55% conveyance efficiency, which is kind of our baseline, we definitely try to exceed that as much as we can. And we do hit that on the higher end, especially when we're running full force. So it's a pretty good number that we use, and we've been pretty much on target the last few years for sure. So now what we're looking at here, if we take this 12-inch estimate here for the month of February, it's about a 78-day irrigation run, 2.5 months. It's kind of what we're looking at. When you look at start dates, I kind of just put historically what we've done in the past and recommendations that we've had at different times. Again, if we were to start at an April date, for an example, that means we'd be out of water with the 12 inches by July 1st. Following the last year model, if we were to start around May 1st, it would end around July 17th, etc. So as you go down the line, you kind of got an idea of what these start and end days look like. Of course, we're going out to 164,000. Like Dr. King said, we probably have about 160. So this is pretty close to what we're looking at for the season. So it's just kind of like give you an idea of what we're looking at. And I guess as the numbers become more solid, then we could discuss strategies and how this board likes to move forward with the model of water that we do have. But this is the model that we use. Is there any questions on this?
Questions from the board?
All righty, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Narvaez. So I'll make a comment. At the last board meeting I mentioned, it's about 60 days from when this board makes a decision to the district's ability to put water in our canals. They are continuing to work. They have work plans that are spread out until we make a decision. Similarly, we need to have rural meetings and need to ensure that our members are adequately informed about the release of water and when they should expect it in the canals. 60 days from right now, would you bring that spreadsheet back up for me, please, Mr. Narvaez? 60 days from right now is April 15th. And so the question is, given that we have somewhere between a 12 and a 14-inch allotment, is the expectation of Dr. King, Water Resources, given the current status of the reservoir and the snowpack? If we release April 15th, we will have water available through approximately the 1st to the 15th of July. If that is the irrigation season that any of you are considering, April 15th to July 15th, we need to discuss it now. Because it will be too late if we wait until March to discuss that. When we get to March, we are looking at probably a May 15th release date would be the reasonable expectation for when we can start putting water in, or excuse me, diversion date, when we could reasonably start putting water in our system, which has us running through approximately August 1st through August 15th, somewhere in that time frame. With that, I look to the board to what you're thinking, and if there's a decision that we need to be considering right now. Mr. Lack.
Greg, I've talked to several farmers on this issue, and their rule of thumb, and this is just, they're not hard and fast right now, but they're just leaning towards concepts that's worked in the past. We get 12 inches of water, they like to start in May. You know, if we get like 2 foot of water, they want to start a month sooner because of how things kind of shake down. Because we need water in especially late June, July. If we start sooner than the middle of May, well, then that makes a lot of people have to really stress. That's for the north end. I can't speak for Randy. Randy can speak for the farmers on the north end of where he's farming up there, but I talked to mostly the farmers from Hatch and just north of Hatch down to where I'm at. And most of them would say ideally, if we get 12 inches, they'd like to start around the middle of May like they did last year. Kind of fit real well. It worked out excellent for people who have drip, people who have row crop, and also with the cotton farmers. Just with all of them, and that's their initial take. Now, with the grower meetings, we can fine tune that. But that's where they're right now putting their thumb in the ground.
Thank you.
Maybe want to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Garai.
In our neck of the woods, everybody's wanting water through the heat of the summer. Last year, if we hadn't had water when we were at 108 degrees, we would have been in trouble. So we need, whatever the allotment is, we need to make it through July and part of August. That's what everybody's telling me.
Thank you, Mr. Garai. Mr. Clayshall.
There's no reason to consider this at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Clayshall. I concur with the things that we've heard. The feedback that I get from growers when I talk to them is that it's the June through August timeframe that is most critical for them. Starting a little bit before it's critical is helpful to mediate the impacts of startup demand and the ability for us to have startup supply. But it's during the heat that is most critical to have additional water resources.
And Greg, again, you know, we do a lot of onions, we do a lot of wheat, we do a lot of hay down there on that. So I'm not saying anything about you, but those farmers from Hatch on down, they'd like to put some of that drip system. And again, this is talking to a lot of them, not just 1 or 2 or something. And Randy has the right to see what he wants to with all his farmers up north. But again, we need some of that water because of the salt conditions, especially you get from that south. The north end of the valley is not nearly as salty. We have to fight that salt. And we need to fight it on at least 2 irrigations on our last runs on our onions. And for sure, our last 1 or 2 irrigations on our wheat, and probably second cut of hay. Because first of all, when you start with hay, you start pumping all year long salt. And you need some good canal water because your heavy cuts are in the first 3. They don't happen on the end. Now cotton and corn and a lot of that stuff that growing up on that north end of the valley, I completely understand, Randy. Don't need your water later for that. But again, they have those grower meetings for a reason. We all get in there and they can discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Lack. So I've heard a clear statement from Mr. Clayshall that it is unnecessary to make a decision at this time. Is there anyone with a dissenting opinion? I hear none. Any final comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I could add, I expect to have the allocation finalized certainly by mid to end of next week. If that helps at all.
Thank you, Dr. King. I'm not hearing, unless the snowpack changes drastically in the next 7 days, I'm not hearing any urgency from the board of directors. Thank you, Dr. King. Next item on the agenda is the financial report. Ms. Byron.
Good morning. I will get it going. Okay, good morning, members of the board. Good morning, Mr. President. I'm gonna start with the cash balances report. And it looks pretty amazing, but that's what happens this time of the year because we typically collect the bulk of our money from the November through January timeframe. And that's what we've done. There is a bit of a caveat here, is we were able to and did receive make a request for our grant monies for the California lateral and for the drought resiliency grant, and those totaled a little over 500,000. So this some of this difference here is made up of grant requests. But other than that, we have been doing well on earning our interest and getting the money to the New Mexico State Treasurer's Office for them to invest, and that is kind of where we're at with our cash. Mr. President, if there's any questions?
Are there any questions regarding the cash balances report? I hear none.
Okey-doke. And unfortunately, January is a very, very, very busy month for finance. We have all of our end of calendar year activities, such as doing our W-2s. We have a lot of activities where we're taking in the money that you saw that we have. We also do a lot of purchasing because that's our construction season and they always need all sorts of things. So unfortunately, due to that and the fact that I was spending a lot of time working on audit schedules, we are not ready to present our January financial statements at this time, but anticipate that both January and February will be available at the next regular board meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Byram. Are there any important points that is there any items of significance that have occurred in the month of January that you would like to make us aware of prior to submitting the full report?
Well, I mentioned the grant reimbursements, which was good. Work is continuing on the grants. We did issue a purchase order for a sizable amount of plastic pipe for the delivering conservation, i.e. the California lateral grant, and that will eat up a lot of our cash. But other than that, no, nothing else that I can think of.
When you say eat up a lot of our cash, what was the size of that purchase order?
It was about, it came out to about 337,000.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Byram regarding finance? Hearing none, I do not see Mr. Lutz. Mr. Lutz came up to me and said that he had to attend a 9:30 hearing. And I stated that I would try to hold the approval of his contract until his return. So if there is no objection, we will table item 7B until Mr. Lutz returns. Is there any objection from the board? Hearing none, that item is tabled. That brings us to item 7C, the bank signature resolution.
Yes, sir. And this is a requirement by our bank, which is BMO Harris Bank. They purchased or took over Bank of the West this last year. And we're updating the signatures and who is authorized to sign on the bank account because of the changes in the board membership. And that requires, they would require us to pass a resolution authorizing that. And that's what this is. It is their format, their template that we are using.
Thank you very much. So I had a few questions on the resolution. So I've never seen a bank request a formal resolution for our signature cards. I also noticed how lengthy this resolution is. That said, in reviewing it, it seems to state that the signatories have the authority to do normal banking with the bank account.
Mhm.
I didn't see anything else in there. Is there anything else I should be aware of in this resolution other than it's granting the normal authority that a signature would grant?
That's all it's doing.
A lot of words to do that. I don't really want to push back on the bank, but is there a reason that this bank is requiring this and we've not been required to do this sort of formal resolution in the past?
We had asked them that very question, and one, it's a new process as part of BMO Bank versus Bank of the West. Bank of the West had something similar in their process, but that was kind of all blended in with the signature cards that were signed. So this is just a separation. It's something that BMO does, and they're still working out how to figure who can do what inside their organization as to who can help us and who can't, and so.
Okay, thank you. So I don't really have an objection to the resolution, just it's different. This is not our normal way of doing signatures. Mr. Clayshall?
In my experience in the past, the big banks, by local banks, things go to hell. Just tell you like it is, boys. Do we need to change banks? Ms. Byron, what is your opinion, please?
We definitely should look to see how often, or it's been since we've looked at changing banks. You do have a certain number of years that you have before you have to look at getting a new bank. And I think we're probably about due to do a request for proposal to make sure we're with the right bank. I don't want to look at it right now. But yeah, it's definitely something that it's going to come up here before too long.
My two experiences in this have been not rewarding.
We just need to make sure. I've gone through a bank change process. It's not fun. It took a lot of time. And so you want to make sure that you are happy with whoever you get for 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Clayshall. Thank you, Ms. Byram. I have a comment on that, but okay. So I've heard a suggestion that we evaluate our banking relationship. And I heard a response from Ms. Byram that we're probably due and is warranted to review that. There are some items that we need to delegate to the Finance Committee. We will discuss appointing members of this board to that committee. And I would suggest referring Mr. Clayshall's consideration to the Finance Committee to then review with staff and come back with recommendations to the board. Any other comments regarding the resolution? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I move to approve the resolution.
I have a motion to approve the resolution 2024-03 authorized bank signatory. For Lake Ruby Rosa, seconded by Mr. Clayshall. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries. That brings us to our manager's update, Mr. Esslinger.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we pretty much discussed during the calendar events, the March 20th Supreme Court hearing in DC, so I have nothing else to add to that.
Thank you.
I just want to bring to the attention of the board, the April 9th through 11th NWRA Policy Conference. That's also in Washington DC, and due to the expenses of traveling and staying in DC, we need to probably make arrangements now with the board who could attend, and so that gives plenty of time to Naomi to make those reservations.
Would you like to discuss that at this time, Mr. Esslinger? Or do you want to finish your report first?
I would like to just finish this one, and then
Please.
I see Mr. Boots has come back in now.
Thank you. So what we're, Mr. Esslinger is yielding. We're going to return to item 7B, which is the professional services contract under $60,000 to Mr. David Lutz. So the contract, did your board packet, I'm bringing it up here. So again, in our standard professional services contract, there are two items that are important to review that are not standard in every contract. First is the scope of work, and the second is the compensation. That's items or paragraphs 1 and 2 in the professional services contract. And so, Mr. Lutz's firm has agreed to a rate of $175 per hour. And this scope of work, without reading it out loud, essentially covers everything that is not water law related. Disclosures. So I have a disclosure. Mr. Lutz has represented me in my capacity as a director at Elton Butte Irrigation District. There is privileged attorney-client information that he and I have discussed about my role here. I am waiving that privilege, and anything there that should be disclosed will be disclosed to the board in closed session. It is my understanding, Mr. Pranzoy, it is my understanding that we need to approve this if we choose to approve this contract, it needs to be contingent upon the satisfaction of this board upon hearing anything that they wish to hear about the privileged conversations I've had with Mr. Lutz. Mr. Lutz also represents my company. We have no current active litigation that Mr. Lutz is representing for my company. He represents our family, specifically in the guardianship for my mother. And it is my intention that Mr. Lutz will continue to be our counsel in that capacity. He will no longer be my counsel in the capacity of a individual board member, should this contract be approved. Mr. Roby Rosa.
Mr. Lutz also represents my company, but I believe that there are no conflicts of interest, and I believe that he's only helped us review contracts. Is that correct, Mr. Lutz?
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Can I
Lutz.
address the question? Yes, I do general corporate matters. We have no communication matters with Mr. Rosa, where it's that.
Thank you, Mr. Lutz. Without, I don't see any other disclosures. I open a discussion from the board. Hearing no discussion, I will entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove the professional services contract.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion for Mr. Clayton to approve the contract,
I second.
seconded by Mr. Sloan. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Continuing the president, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. That brings us back to, we were on agenda item 8B, the NWRA policy documents.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, as we discussed, briefly yesterday, we were anticipating sending 2 to 3 board members plus staff and general counsel. And just want to, confirm that's the case.
So, did you say how many board members?
3,
Three board members.
at least 3, but certainly it can be
Thank you.
less than
So
that.
the NWRA conference is in Washington, DC. Obviously, the SCOTUS hearing is also in Washington, DC. There are 2 principal things that we as governors should be doing in Washington, DC. We need to meet with our congressional delegation, potentially neighboring congressional delegations if there's some cooperative action that we're working on. We also should meet with agency officials for the various agencies that we cooperate with as a reclamation project. It is my recommendation that the day spent before the SCOTUS trip focus on agency contact with Mr. Roby Rosa and myself and the EBID staff. And that the time that we have during the NWRA conference focus on meeting with our congressional delegation. I am not aware of any cooperating legislation that we're working on that would be impacted by meeting with other congressional delegations. Traveling to Washington, DC is hard. Takes a long time to get there, takes a long time to get back. They are very high-paced, densely filled days. Those that went to the state capitol, that was a very dense trip in terms of moving from place to place, meeting with folks, relaying our positions and hearing from our legislators. It is likely this will be even denser. So we're looking for individuals that are available to travel to NWRA. And what's the date you're looking for travel, Mr. Esslinger?
We would probably leave on April the 8th. Take the full day to get there and then be able to begin the conference on the 9th to the 11th and travel possibly back on the afternoon of the 11th. So we're trying to make that arrangement. We've done it in the past.
So the 8th through the 11th of April.
And how many staff members?
It would be usually who's in attendance is myself and legal counsel. This particular trip may be advantageous for us due to the fact that we have projects set forth in this IRA funding opportunity that may come our way. So we want to make sure we're clear with our agencies and our delegation is aware of those projects that may come our way. So yeah, that would be important. The other thing that still remains important to both EBID and Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District is the cleaning of the low flow channel between Socorro and Elephant Butte. And we partnered last year to lobby for that, and we were able to get some legislators, senators, congressmen out to see that site. And so I think we would want to continue to press for the federal government to assist in helping the Bureau of Reclamation clean that portion of the low flow channel. And we may partner again with MRGCD as we go to meet with the congressional delegation.
And I would encourage that partnership. So I look at the directors, Mr. Colquitt. Mr. Colquitt says that he will attend. All right, I've got one board member that has indicated that they will attend. at the discretion of the board, we can approve travel for additional board members, to be named, you know, when they verify that their schedules are clear and they're willing to attend. I am unable to attend. I am presenting at the Law of the Rio Grande CLE in Santa Fe that week. Mr. Roby Rosa has also indicated to me that he is unable to attend that trip.
I cannot do it.
Mr. Sloan is unavailable. Mr. Tharp is unavailable.
I just need to check my schedule.
So that leaves Mr. Lack, I'm assuming you can't travel.
I can't travel yet, no, sir. Thank you.
So that leaves
DC with the doing, John.
Mr. Garai, Mr. Glacial, Mr. Ludwig to review whether or not they were able to attend that. How many board members does the board wish to approve travel for? Mr. Eslinger has suggested 3. And then with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve travel. Mr. Roby Rosa,
I think we should approve at least 2.
is that a motion for 2?
I'd like to discuss it with them.
Okay. It is not a motion, but a suggestion to approve at least 2.
Mr. President, you can always approve 3, doesn't mean 3 has to go. That just gives you the extra security in case 3 do decide. Instead of just saying 2 and then 3, you end up wanting to go. So that's an option.
Thank you.
In that case, I move to approve, travel expenses for 3 board members.
I'll second.
And staff?
And staff.
Yeah.
2 staff?
Any,
You mean staff and legal? Staff, legal's not staff.
I would include legal in staff for this discussion.
we have 2 staff.
You know, the staff members to be determined by Mr. Eslinger. Mr. Eslinger, did you have, so I have a motion from Mr. Roby Rosa to approve travel for 3 board members and 2 EBID staffers. I believe there was a second from Mr. Colquitt.
Sure. Yeah.
Mr. Eslinger.
Mr. Chair, I'm just thinking, it may be important to allow also Joe to go, since he has been working with the Bureau and Smithfield on these projects, and just in case that we can find out if that's going to be discussed on that with the pending us getting funding, and I would like to have not the same thing.
Are you asking to
Add one.
add 3 staff? So there was a suggestion from Mr. Eslinger to amend the motion to include 3 staff. So I look at the movements to see if that is what you would like.
I think that's fine. So do I need to amend?
No, I hear that as a friendly amendment that, Mr. Roby Rosa is agreeable to. Mr. Colquitt is the seconder. You agree? Yes. So the motion is now for 3 board members and 3 staff for travel to the NWRA conference in Washington, DC. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Being the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Mr. Eslinger.
The next thing on the agenda would be the Rio Grande Compact meeting. This is an annual, once-a-year meeting. It will be held on April 26th. It's usually a day and a half. And then this year it will be in El Paso. And my recommendation is that as many board members as can possibly make that attend, and we can call it a special meeting of the board to attend this compact meeting. I understand it will be held downtown at the Plaza Hotel. And again, there's a reception the night before, then the actual meeting lasts about four hours, and then it's over. So it's really one night and the next half day.
Experience going to Rio Grande Compact Commission meetings. First of all, I agree with Mr. Eslinger's suggestion. If you can possibly get to the reception and the Rio Grande Compact Commission meeting, please do. It is historic that it is being done in El Paso. That is a big deal. that it is within the area of the project. It has not been in the area of the project for how many years, Mr. Eslinger? Several. I don't remember being in El Paso. Generally, we have to go to Austin, Texas for Texas's hosting. So I would strongly encourage all of you to attend the reception and the compact commission meeting. There are discounted rate rooms at the compact meeting hotel. It has been my experience that the bulk of the work that we would do as governors is meeting with the governors of our sister district, meeting with agency officials. The bulk of that work happens at the reception and in the hotel lobby after the reception. That is when discussions take place that will help inform your policy decisions. For some of our board members, the further north they are, El Paso starts to get further and further away, and the ability to attend all that and get home and get back the next morning becomes difficult. So I would recommend that we approve a certain number of rooms at the hotel. And then we can figure out who's attending and who is most in need of overnighting in El Paso. With that, I open it to the board for discussion and thoughts on that. Mr. Colquitt.
If I go, just drive back home. I mean, and if everyone can, I think we should to save money for the district. That's just me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And I hear from our colleagues to the north that that's an acceptable direction.
Absolutely.
Is there any dissent to that opinion? I hear none. So given that, I don't believe there's any authorization we need. Is there anything else you need other than the announcement, Mr. Esslinger?
No. We'll just announce a special board meeting at compact.
Thank you very much. And the agenda item for that will be attendance of the compact commission meeting. To be clear, we will not be discussing or formulating other policy at that meeting. We will be listening to inform policy decisions we make in the future. Mr. Esslinger, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Under Caballo Dam inspection, it was asked of me to find out if the Bureau had finished their inspection. They drew down the Caballo Dam reservoir this year in anticipation of putting stop logs inside the dam so that they could inspect the diversion throat of the dam and also bring it down to a point where they could inspect the pipeline that delivers water into the Bonita lateral. And those inspections were done. The results of that were successful. They said the throat of the diversion release valve is open and clean and looks in very good shape. They haven't gotten a response back on the inspection of the Bonita pipe, so that is still pending.
So that's the pipe that goes from the outlet works, flows along the foot of the dam to the Bonita lateral?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Is Mr. Vasquez here still? Larry, do you have anything else to report on that?
No, that is correct. They did do, the maintenance work on that, there at the Caballo Dam site, and then, the work done at the Bonita lateral as well too. They installed a new meter there, downstream, so that's gonna be added on, and it'll be access to everybody too as well. The HTV system, so, yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. And the meter is downstream of the pipe in the Bonita lateral?
Yeah, so they put in a new, meter right there to, better, record the flow coming in from there.
Thank you very much. Mr. Esslinger.
Thank you, sir. Item F is the legislative update. Certainly, I wanted to make sure you all saw this report from your lobbyist you hired, Tiffany. She prepared this for you all. based on her scope of work. And, I might say that, what three board members, were able to, witness were in one day, a half a day one day and a half a day the next was probably what you would see in a week or more if you were up there, but it was very dense. It was very, busy, moving around. We arrived there about 11:30, and were able to catch a lot of the legislators before they went onto the floor. And so, we were able to meet with certainly the legislators that represent our part of, state. And that was the beginning, just to be able to visualize them, to see us in the hall, on the floor, visiting with them. We then circled back and remained in the hall of the floor of the Senate and the House. And we're able to then sit in the, Senate Finance, complex, and several senators kept coming in and representatives kept coming in. So we met senators from across the state and congressmen as well, representatives, excuse me. And so, that portion was pretty action-packed, and, we were very visible, I believe, to everyone that was, we were able to reach out and greet and visit with. We went to lunch, and then afterwards, Tiffany gave a tour, complete tour of the Capitol and its annexes, and that was very interesting for board members and even for myself, who's been up there before, to just retour that facility. It's a very it's a very unique roundhouse. And one of the security officers there says, "You know why it's round, don't you?" And we goes, "No." And he said, "It's because it's hard to corner a legislator." So anyway, we went on ahead and then went and sat in the gallery and watched a bill being introduced and debated on the floor of the Senate. We then took a break and went to our rooms and got ready for our dinner that night. That was that we hosted at the La Fonda. And we had representatives and senators come and visit and sit and eat with us. And we also had state officials come and visit with us and have dinner with us. Tanya Trujillo was one of those state officials. She is a water advisor to the governor, and she sat with us. There was also Hannah Reedley White. She was the Interstate Streams Director. She was able to sit with us and visit. Aaron Blaylock, he's the manager of the EBID in Roswell, but he also is on the Interstate Stream as a board member. He met with us. And we had Michaela Cadena, a representative right here in Lucia, sit with us and have dinner with us. And also Joseph Cervantes, Senator Cervantes came by and did with us, and it was nice. And we had two other senators sit with us as well. So all in all, the dinner was great, and an opportunity for board members to visit and meet with state officials and legislators. And we also had a couple of lobbyists come by and visit as well in that dinner. The next morning, we got up and had a breakfast that Tiffany's arranged a meeting room, and we had burritos and coffee for the legislators to come by and visit. And that was again another opportunity for board members to greet legislators in the hall and invite them in for burrito and coffee. And certainly that one was a mixed bag of attendance due to the fact that I think the Senate did not get completed with their agenda before till 3 in the morning. So a lot of them slept in, I believe. And so it was, again, an opportunity, to meet with the legislators. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll leave it up to you or Raphael or Randy to also comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Esslinger. Mr. Roby-Rosa, Mr. Garai, do you have any comments you'd like to add? Mr. Roby-Rosa.
Mr. President, I would say that the meetings that we had were very productive. All of the representatives and state senators were very amenable to working with us. We had productive conversations with all of the people we met from the agencies, and we made good connections with other lobbyists and legislators and legislators.
Thank you, Mr. Roby-Rosa. Mr. Garai, anything you'd like to add?
It was a great trip, and just wanted to say thanks to Senator Diamond Brantley for going out of her way to bring all those senators out to meet us.
And my only comment would be that I was pleased and impressed with how well Mr. Roby-Rosa and Mr. Garai engaged with everyone that came by. Those that have been around me much know that this is not the place that I'm comfortable. This is not where my strengths lie. And so it was nice to see other folks attending with me who do thrive in that environment. Mr. Glacial.
Question, I'd like the opinion of all three of you on the value we receive for expenditure of employing Tiffany Rivera. Good value?
She did a wonderful job.
Excellent value. I mean, she really took us around and introduced us to everybody. People respect her and know her, and she's a good job.
Thank you.
Her job is to get us in the door. So she works on those pieces and the connections that she needs in order to get us into a door. And then it's our job to express our concerns. And I think she did an excellent job with that. I've worked with her before. There wasn't anywhere that we needed to go and testify in front of a hearing. I have done that in other capacities, with Ms. Rivera, and have found her to do an excellent job in preparing me for the things that I need to know about the specific person I'm speaking to.
To continue, on that trip, we also met with the Bureau, the second day on our way back from, Santa Fe. And we met we had a lunch meeting with, Jennifer Baylor, the area manager, Michelle Estrada Lopez, she is the operations hydrologist there for the Bureau, and also Genevieve Allen, who works with us as well on our Bureau NIFWID projects. And they formally invited the entire board to meet and tour the Elephant Butte Dam. And if you've never done that, it's a spectacular event, and she would like to, we indicated that we would certainly report to you all that she asked for that, and we should certainly try to find the time to go out there and meet with her, and then also discuss some of the projects and the activities that the Bureau shares with EBID and in the Rio Grande project. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I will work on trying to set some kind of a time and date if you still call for me to do so.
Thank you. So it was very nice to receive the invitation to go and tour the facility as well as to meet the reclamation individuals that have an impact on the work we do here at Elephant Butte Irrigation District. I strongly encourage us to accept that invitation. My recommendation would be to split it into two different tours to keep us from having a quorum present. Also for the number of people that they're able to host at a single time, that they were agreeable to that, thought that was a good idea. They expect that there will also be state agency individuals that will also be attending the tour. And so it'll be a good time to meet reclamation staff, a good time to interact with state agency staff, as well as to see the dam, as it is impressive to see the engineering that took place 120 years ago, and just how knowledgeable they were in creating a facility that would last hundreds of years. Is there any objection to us setting up these tours? Very good. My recollection was they were asking for it to be no earlier than the end of March.
Right.
Probably after NWRA was my recollection.
Right.
So we're looking, the earliest that any of these tours will go would be the end of March, but probably middle of April. So Mr. Esslinger, would you please coordinate, with reclamation to set up 2 dates? And, once we have those dates, we'll see what date works best for the individuals on board of directors.
The tour itself will probably take about an hour and a half, too. And then certainly they have a conference room there at the dam site that also will, you could meet for another couple hours.
I would expect that it'll probably be 3 hours here at dam site and potentially another hour and a half having lunch. That's a reasonable expectation. So it's a big chunk of the day, probably 9 to 2, something like that.
Okay. All right, moving on. Mr. President, item G, I think, has been discussed. That meeting has been set for the February 20th at 9 o'clock next week for Chris Polly to attend in person and visit with the board regarding the management recruitment process. Nothing else to add. I think it's all prepared and ready to go. And finally, item H. This is something that I just brought to your attention. It's something we've done pretty much annually. Every year, we support the Family Farm Alliance through a sponsorship. Normally, that sponsorship is anywhere from $250 to $500. There's a list of things that we could actually sponsor. However, normally the board just has offered to send to Family Farm a sponsorship amount. And so I just ask if the board is willing to want to do that this year or not.
Thank you very much, Mr. Esslinger. So recognizing that it's tough to know exactly what Family Farm Alliance even is at this point. Historically, somewhere in the $250 to $500 range is what Elk Butte Irrigation District has done to sponsor their conference. This is an optional expenditure. I open it up for discussion.
In short, what is the Family Farm Alliance? And what are the benefits of, I mean, 500 is not a make it or break it, but what's the,
What do we do?
exactly?
So the Family Farm Alliance is a grassroots organization that promotes agriculture in the West, defends agriculture in the West. They are focused primarily on water-related issues. There are other issues that Family Farm Alliance will engage in. The reason for Elk Butte Irrigation District's involvement is because of the water issues. NWRA is also a water issue organization that we belong to. It is more broad in its scope. It is representing not just agricultural water use, but municipal water use, industrial water use. And so it's all water related issues, and we're looking for ways that we can work together across industries at NWRA. Family Farm Alliance is specific to what are the things impacting agriculture in either water law or water litigation in the West. Mr. Esslinger.
And Eric, well, but it's farmers. It isn't irrigation district manager, it's farmers. It's all farmer oriented. The board is farmers, the membership is farmers. So if you, and you may even know someone from Arizona in the cotton business or vegetable business. They're very active as far as a voice in America. I've testified myself for this organization in Congress. They fight for the farmer and the rights of the farmer, the we're being thrown under the bus, as you can read in the media. And this organization stands up for farmers across the United States. But it's very, very actively attended by farmers. They take the time to go and they take the time to listen. And the networking is unbelievable. Because you actually get to talk to a farmer that may have the same problem you have on your farm.
Yeah.
And yet hear what they're dealing with and how they're dealing with, or how the government is, or a federal agency or a law is impacting them, whether it be endangered species, clean water, whatever. And so it gives you a good insight as to how other farmers are dealing with their situation in their state. And then it brings everybody together, and you then have that opportunity to just lay it all out and talk farmer to farmer.
Greg, one thing I'd like to say to these new board members, we have had the president of Farmers Alliance here, right, in our community, talking to us about the hot button issues that we needed to help them with, and of course, they help us with. It's not just a source of information, but it's an action plan behind whatever's coming up that they can do, not just here, but in their state and their backyards. I feel we should support them, and they're, for what little bit we do for them, they do tons back. For every dollar you spend for them, they're gonna be shooting thousands back towards us in programs, and especially when it comes to your concepts and the things that you do as a family farm. There's a lot of enemies out there against the family farm, and they know every one of them, and they'll help you offset them. They'll give you information that you need in your own practices that you're doing to help you offset a lot of the pressures you have, especially with the government and all these young new, agencies that don't always work with a farmer, like endangered species, especially in our case. And that's what we discussed with him when he came down, but they also love animals, they're not against them. They just wanna make a place that doesn't take you out of business to make a habitat for them, kind of like what we did up there on our farm. But a great bunch of people, in my opinion.
To address the question of what do we get for the money. So we get listed as a sponsor. There is some recognition of Elk Community Irrigation District helps support the conference. And that can be important in our interactions with other members of the organization. The use of the sponsorship is to offset the cost of the conference, so that it's not all having to come from attendance fees. I suspect that the conference is the principal fundraiser on the memberships for the organization. So it also helps to fund the activities they participate in. Mr. Sloan.
I move we do $250 sponsorship.
I have a motion from Mr. Sloan to sponsor the conference for $250. Seconded by Mr. Garai. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think it'll be 500.
Is that a motion to amend? Or y'all presented a friendly amendment?
If he's gonna get money, I like his idea. I know him pretty well.
I believe that Mr. Sloan has accepted that as a friendly amendment, Mr. Garai as well. So the motion on the floor now is to sponsor the event for $500. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Mr. Esslinger, you skipped over item 8B. Was that intentional?
Which one?
8B.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's an intentional, but I wish it was something that we could skip over. I just want to report that, that on, January 30th, Lisa White, she's our maintenance, assistant, discovered a sewage leak on the Leesburg Main Canal. She contacted me and certainly, the engineering department. We immediately went out to the sewage leak, took pictures, Anna and Ron drove to the site and, we inspected. Clearly, we found a leak coming from what they call it, a relief valve station that was intermittently releasing sewage, and it's been occurring for, looked like already several days because it was standing sewage on our canal bank and had even gotten inside the prism of the canal. I immediately called Director Tharp and alerted him to that effect, that we had a serious problem on our canal bank. On the 31st, Scott Gamboa from our engineering department spoke to Mike Johnson. He is with Sauter Miller and Associates, the engineering firm that designed the sewage system. And they began to look at correct and cleanup action at that point in time. I went to that site myself and certainly not knowing the history behind it. The permit was permitted by this board in 2018. And at that point in time, I was under the impression that it was a hookup with the Donana Mutual Water and Sewage Association that's located in the North Valley. And come to find out, talking to their director, that it wasn't connected to their system. It was a system, a private system. It's referred to as the 10070 Casa de Oro Wastewater LLC, owned by an individual named Gray Handy. And so we're in the process of following up with that company as well as the engineering contractor. The actual leak, after they did their analysis of what was occurring, were able to stop the leak, thank God, on February 7th. So it did run off and on during that period. I don't know if you noticed it or went up there after that, but it did off and on happen until they could get the parts ordered and fix the leak. And the system actually failed in another location other than where it was affecting our system, our right of way. It was also affecting another area along the line of the sewage system. Right now, NMED was also notified. A gentleman by the name of Noel Hernandez has been at the site, been inspecting it. We're waiting. We are now anticipating having a meeting with the owner, the engineering contractor, engineering firm, NMED and EBID to discuss what we will do to rectify the issue. So with that said, we're in the process now of discussing cleanup, what they're gonna do to remove material necessary, what NMED expects them to do. So we're waiting to have that meeting, and certainly we will keep you informed of the process. Yes.
Mr. Sawyer, I know it's probably too early to answer this question. Do you anticipate any financial impact to EBID? Are we on any expense?
I don't, I'm putting the expense on everybody else at EBID. I was concerned that I might have had to go up there with our equipment and put it in a tabanco to keep any pumping that could occur from impacting that area. I haven't done so yet, but clearly in the cleanup, we will see if they will remove all that material that damaged soil that's in the bottom of the canal and on the side banks. And I don't anticipate EBID funding any or having any expenditures at all.
Thank you. Mr. Copeland.
How long does sewage run for?
We noticed it on, when Lisa drove by there on the 30th of January. I don't know if it started before then. It was a malfunction in what they call a relief valve. And it probably was caught open. And certainly as the high, it's a pressure system, so certainly it would relieve and release itself. And when it relieved itself, it released itself into our canal and onto our banks. It was a stuck valve.
And when was it stopped finally?
I believe on February seventh. I got notice that it was completely taken care of, it's replaced. The one thing that I believe will come back to this district and it will be the fact that the permit that was approved by the board in January of 2018 was for a 4-inch line, sewer line. But what we found out there was a 2-inch line. So it's something that we'll have to investigate with the company as well as with the engineering firm that designed it.
Awful small sewer line.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Colquitt. Mr. Roverosa.
President, Mr. Etzinger, how many linear feet of canal were exposed to sewage?
Do you remember, Anna, the linear footage? of the-
Yeah, I have maps, that I'll show you on my presentation. But, there's about maybe 250 feet linear on the north, spill side, and on the other one was about the same, I would say.
We have 2 spill sites on EBID facilities. Thank you.
Well, yes, yes. One made it to the bottom of the canal, the other one, stayed on the, maintenance bank and spilled into a community ditch.
Thank you. Ms. Donahue, are you gonna have a discussion of this permit and this spill
I
during your
have
presentation?
pictures and maps.
I will hold my questions until that point.
Yeah.
Additional questions for Mr. Eslinger? Thank you. Do you have anything additional, Mr. Eslinger?
No, only that I will assure you we're staying on top of this one and certainly thank you to our engineering department. And those that are involved, we're trying to get to the bottom of it. We'll report back to you. Thank you, President, for attending and going out there on your own. Did you have any comments? No.
Thank you, Mr. Eslinger. That brings us to engineering and maintenance. Donahue.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board, guests. Have to apologize, I'm a little under the weather today, but if I lose my voice or anything, I have my left-hand man here, not right man because I'm left-handed. Okay, so screen share, right? First I need to put this. Oops. I don't know. This is what favorite. Ah. February 2024. There we go. And now I do the screen share, right? Oh. Okay, so now. Here. Okay. Oh, I see. Just click on it. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. How do I go to the next slide? Oh. Okay. Oh,
There you
and how do I?
go.
Perfect. Okay, so as Mr. Eslinger was telling the board, there was a sewer spill into the Leesburg main canal. We were aware of it on January the 30th. The sewer line was permitted to 1005 Lujan Hill Road wastewater systems under license 2018-L-003 The manager of that LLC is Mr. Gray Handy from Santa Fe. He was informed that same day, as well as the engineering company, Southern Miller and Associates and Caliber Construction, who installed the line. Two areas along the Leesburg Main are affected. One is right here. This is Lujan Hill Road. And this is Rancho del Gallo subdivision, and the additional spill location is here, just west of the subdivision. NMED and the contractor were informed. NMED has been great. They jumped right into it, have been in contact with us since the beginning. The apparent cause was a pump failure and a factory defect on two of the PVC Y connectors. Okay. And this is a map showing, oops, the spill area. There's a sewer manhole right here, and when we went on site, it was just spilling. First day was just on this area, and the next day it had spilled onto some private land. This is Donald Doak Farms. And from about here to here is about 200 feet. And then the secondary spill site, it did not make it into the bottom of the canal, but it did spill into our maintenance bank and into the community ditch just west of Rancho del Gallo subdivision. Let's see. And these are some pictures of the spill. That was the first day when we were made aware. And that was the condition of the manhole on the north spill site. The next day or so, another spill occurred. This is the one by Rancho del Gallo subdivision. It affected our maintenance bank, but it, like I said before, it didn't go into the canal, but it did get into this community ditch. Okay, so any questions on the spill?
Mr. Robbie Rosa.
Mr. President, is the community ditch lined with concrete?
Yes, it is.
Does that make the cleanup easier?
I'm assuming so, but I don't know. It's gonna be up to NMED, whatever their recommendation is.
Mr. Garai.
Was this spill limited to effluent or was there solids involved?
As far as we know, it was just a effluent. We didn't see any solids.
With regards to the permit,
Mhm.
can you describe the permit? It's a permit in parallel
Yes.
use? Thank you. Other questions regarding this bill?
So what happens, they applied for a 4-inch, but a 2-inch was put in, so
That is, the question
Who
is
dropped
whether or
the
not
bait?
that is compliant. Are they compliant with their license? That would be a question for that. Mr. Esslinger.
Yes, the other disturbing evidence is that manhole should have been at the 5-foot outer edge of our right of way, and it's in the center of our canal bank. So somehow, in some way, we don't know why the line that was permitted down at the
And the north side's
was
spill.
in its design location, and then it veered into our canal bank here on that photo. So we'll have to question that too.
Other questions? Thank you very much for that. Mr. Robbie Rosa.
Mr. President, is there a representative at NMED that that's in charge of the case?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you get that name, just in case any of the constituents of Tharp have questions, they can refer to me?
Yes,
It was mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I can give you
Mention it again.
that.
I have it in the email. Okay.
So, yes, he's involved and he will be in all the meetings that.
And would you state his name one more time, Mr. Esslinger?
Noel Hernandez.
Thank you.
And he's also the one that's been overseeing part of the Kinder Morgan spill site.
Additional questions? Well, we will expect follow-up reports on this. Thank you very much. Please continue, Ms. Tony.
Okay, the next update is on the Hainer cable. It's going well. I have a little video showing the area on both sides of the Rio Grande. Next time I need to put a little music, but as you can see, we have equipment on both sides, and it was the very first day. That is the maintenance and the serving crews. They are putting in the markers for where the anchors and the stealing cable, no, sorry, the stealing well are going.
Anybody roping this house today? That's right in the middle of my roping arena.
Right?
But they're doing a very good job. Thank you, Juan.
From this, you can see why this meeting site, the straight shot of the river. We can now gauge anything that comes from the Hatch Valley moving into the Mesilla Valley. As far as storm flows, and also actual river flow as well from releases from the wild. But this is critical for, and you can see the narrowness of the river right there. So it makes for a great metering site.
Oh, yeah, the access is convenient, is a great location for it.
Mr. President.
I just wanted maybe kind of the board's comment on these videos. Are they helpful? I kind of would discuss with engineering about shooting these videos and doing time-lapse phases of the project design over time, specifically for IRA, but also introducing it to you guys to give you kind of what our ongoing projects look like. Do you guys have any comments on this?
Mr. Colquitt.
Good, go ahead, Bart.
Mr. Rosa. Mr. Colquitt.
Okay. Who did that drone footage?
We did.
That's awesome. In-house.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
We have drones. I know like a better drone, but
Yes,
works for now.
Mr. Rosa.
Mr. President, if we could put these up on the internet and so that the farmers can see the work that we're doing, that would be excellent.
They already are expected to go up. We're gonna do all of our projects. We're gonna shoot videos. We're gonna time lapse phase them. They'll all be posted online so everyone can see the status of this.
I will give a comment, having seen many of these drone videos of various items that engineering and maintenance has worked on. I find them to be very helpful. I'm a visual type of person, visual memory. When I see that, and when you show me the next one, it helped me to understand the progress in these projects. The idea of time lapse, we'll take that even further.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to see one of those complete, then go up there right below the Wild Dam. And they have one complete right there. And that's kind of, I'm not gonna say it's gonna look the same, but that's the same deal. And you need to measure water far enough up north so that, say we have any kind of a arroyo run. If you can catch a measurement here, well, that gives them from there all the way down to the dams south to make the move to put the waters where we can recapture and put it in our drain ditches and stuff for, of course, also for recharge. That's kind of the mission behind this whole thing, and that's why we're doing this there instead of further south, basically. As far north as you can, you need to get a reading on that. Now, Broad Canyon comes in below that, which is another pretty big release, but that's gonna catch most of the stuff that comes in from the north.
Thank you, Mr. Lack. Please continue, Ms. Dunn.
oh, shoot, wait, wrong. Okay, so these are additional pictures of the site, and this is when they were getting ready to do the the foot. I'm sorry, I'm a little cotton-headed. Yeah, the anchors and shaping of West Bank to accommodate stealing well. The material has been brought in for the sub base, and that's this area over here. And that's the fence, temporary fence, 8-foot panels, removable. And here the maintenance and serving crew getting ready to do the markings for the anchors.
Mr. Esslinger.
Mr. President, it's very important for the board to understand that working on a project like this, we need the cooperation of the farmers. And certainly on the west side, we're working with a farmer named Jasper Riddle. He owns a vineyard. And we had to put these protective panels up because of the wildlife that goes in to eat his vines. And
His wine.
Yes.
And drink his wine, I know, but we have to put those up every night just so that we can protect his farm. And then on the other side, we're working with, Mr. Latt. And we're having to disturb part of his roping arena, but we'll put it all back when we complete it. But, it's really important that when we do these projects, we have the farmers involved. And they ask, and we ask them what they want from us so that we can protect the farm.
And so to add some context about what's being described, the metering site. Metering sites generally consist of two components. One is a continuously logging meter, that's the stilling well. And the cableway is used to take direct measurements from the river to calibrate the stilling well. So the stilling well is taking a meter reading all the time. And then our crews go out, whatever periodically they need to go out in order to calibrate that. The bed of the river moves, the bed of the river changes, and so it needs to be calibrated continuously. Did I get that right, Dr. Fox?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Please continue.
Okay. Moving on, now we're at the Bannock and Salem Check radial gates. The crews have been working on getting measurements to replace these two radial gates. This is the one on the Salem Check. Let me show you. That's AJ and Chuy Morales from engineering. They're taking the measurements for the new pins for the radial gates. And as you can see here, this is the condition of the previous gates. They are supposed to have a very nice even curve, and now you can see how they are all not curvy at all. So anyway, we're working on that. Radial gate design is complete. The rolling and punching of gates is in process.
I'm sorry, which gate again at that discount?
The Salem and the Bannock checks,
Thank you.
radial gates. Okay, then the Palmer lateral box and extension. These are the boxes, distribution boxes that are being put in. The Palmer lateral has been piped a while back, and a farmer requested to have new turnouts. So this is the work that's been done so far. Oops. Oh, yeah, okay. And the cool thing about this is that we're putting in new head walls, and instead of outsourcing this, we're doing it in-house now. We got the forms and we're able to do it in the field we were there and they were making the head walls on site, and it was impressive to see. It was impressive. That's a view of the distribution box right here. The next one, California lateral and extension. These are some photos of the work so far. For the pumps, the pipe contract has been granted to Wind Supply. That's the 27-inch PVC pipe. No response to the pump bid. We will be sending out new RFPs, adding application and technical drawings. Almost finished laying the California lateral portion of the project. And next, we'll begin the process of installing the alfalfa valves. And here's a picture of June 2022. And here's a picture of February 2024, about the same area. So you can see the difference. All this open ditch is gonna be now underground. Okay, next. California extension, 2,000 feet of pipe have been laid down and backfilled so far, and we're expecting to lay down another 2,000.
Is that this year or next year for the following 2,000 feet pipe?
Probably we'll do part this year, and maybe for the next phase.
Thank you.
Then I have a video here. This was pretty cool to watch. And I just have to say, I was impressed by the crews working out there. They had it down to a science. I mean, they made it look easy. Any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Clayton.
Why are we using corrugated pipe instead of plastic pipe?
That I'm not sure.
Mr. Esslinger, do you have a comment on why we're using, whatever, the ultra flow pipe versus plastic?
The corrugated metal, ultra flow has a coating on the inside for, so there's less friction. The other reason for corrugated metal is, that's what we've been successfully had in place since probably 2004, and it's been working relatively, safe as long as it's covered up and buried. We don't find any corrosion or, any reason why there could be cause failure. And the third is expense of plastic.
What's the difference in expense roughly?
I would have to get back with you on cost unless Karen has a number. But the greater diameter the pipe, the more expensive it is than plastic. We have talked to vendors, some of these conferences that, are trying to bring that cost down. But, at this point, it's quite a more, but maybe double.
If I'm not mistaken, the bigger the diameter, the thicker the wall has to be.
Yes.
And answer the question, thanks.
One of the things sometimes, John, those, especially where they come in, if somebody falls, a bunch of weeds fall in that thing, ditch right there, say where it comes out, and then a fire starts in there, it'll melt the piss out of that plastic and burn it,
That's a fact.
and so, I mean, just something that we pay attention to, because we darn sure burn, because we use that plastic on our places where it's, gonna last longer, but we darn sure burnt the ends of them up, so just one little thing you might want to pay attention to is fire.
I'm glad we've done the same thing.
Yeah, I've heard.
And the president, Director, Placer, we're always looking at a better way and a cheaper way to do these pipelines. And clearly, at this point, we've had great success with these, and then it's great, it's designed so there's a small grade change so we can flush and the sediment doesn't stay in the pipelines, and we found that that's working. So we try to put that in, incorporate that in our design, but we continue to look at whether or not we can convert to a plastic if it's the right move for us to make.
Right. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you. Please continue, Ms. Donovan.
Okay, and that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Seeing none, that brings us to special use permits.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Sorry to interrupt.
Long Barris.
Director Facial, Leo Barrett just texted me back, he said about 4,000. He said I'm sorry, 4 times.
Thank you.
The cost of plastic pipe versus the metal ultra flow. Quadruple. Well,
Very heavy. A good question might be to ask, what is the lifelong difference? That's probably what you want to know, metal versus plastic, 'cause I think plastic, if you have a lot of money, you may want to do it. I mean, I'm just saying, you might ask Leo what the lifeline on plastic versus this is. I don't, because we've had these in a lot of places, they're still holding up very well, so. In my experience, like 50 to 60 years on the floor.
Yes, correct. And going out, so going quadruple that, you went 200 years. There's a decent chance you're changing the design of the flow in that period of time.
There's an excellent chance I won't be here.
Oh, yeah.
All righty. All right. So the first 5 permits are for a sewer line installation. It is a very large project. It is near the Texas-New Mexico border. It will be crossing a few of our canals and drains, and they're looking to parallel a good portion as well. As you can see, there's always some risk when it comes to that, as you saw earlier in the presentation. So we always have to keep in mind, especially with this one, we are near Texas, and we have to keep that in mind when approving these permits. So first one is 2024 L001 for the Anthony Water District to operate and maintain a buried sewer force main crossing the east drain at approximate 165. Our general special conditions: no construction during water season. They must coordinate with us prior to the construction. Buried crossings must be no less than 5 feet below the invert design, and the buried crossings must be metal encased throughout EBID right away. Here's the map crossing the east drain there off of Gannett. Here are the designs. Following one, 2024 L012. Oh, sorry, that's a little typo. L002. Fix that. Construct, operate, and maintain a buried sewer force main crossing the Three Saints East at approximate station 236 plus 50. Same special conditions. This one's here by Washington Road. Some more designs. Next one. We have 2024 L03003. To construct, operate, and maintain a buried sewer force main pipeline paralleling the east side of the Three Saints East from approximate station 195 to 243 plus 29. These ones have the same special conditions, along with construction of the parallel utility must be within the outside 5 feet of BID right away. And that'll be this large portion here from Washington to Gannett. (2024) L004 to construct, operate, and maintain a buried sewer force main paralleling the Anthony Lateral Wasteway 22 and the Anthony Lateral from approximate station 353 plus 00 to 363 plus 00. Same special conditions on the parallels. It's going to go from Gannett all across to near Highway 478. You have to construct, operate, and maintain a buried sewer force main for, 2024 L005 to construct, operate, and maintain a buried sewer force main crossing the Anthony Drain at station 107 plus 50. It's going to be here by Washington and Dairy Farm Road. Okay, since I know there's going to be some discussion on the sewer lines, especially with, the issue we're currently having. I think we can stop there if we would like some discussions. I believe I have Josue, who's a representative of the project here. If we have any questions as well.
I mentioned the board, I'm specifically going to ask the 2024 13 and 14 be acted upon separately. That said, I don't wish to discuss these permits now, or do you want to hear the rest of the presentation first, Mr. Black?
That's up to the pleasure of the group, but I think the representative who district is represented here should have more say than anybody else. I mean, we can all talk about it, but I really think that that was in my backyard, I'd have some stuff to say, whether it be now or after. It's not, timing is not up to me.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Ms. Romero,
President, I believe we should discuss this now before we get together.
very good. Any objection to discussing these before moving on to the other permits? I have questions, but, I'll open it to the board first. Mr. Roby Rosa?
Mr. President, is there any path that this sewer line could take that would not parallel, an EBID canal?
Yes, I guess if we're gonna talk alternatives, I'm gonna be one. There's a couple, but as far as running parallel, the 3 cents lateral would be the first one. It's the closest one, essentially running from, the school at the middle school. That's an independent school district, and we're trying to get to the Anthony, and one sanitation school, district, Washington. So if we don't run parallel on the 3 cents lateral, the other alternative is the drain. And then alternative to that is essentially where we have to go all the way down and back around, basically crossing the same laterals and drains, with the alternative of a longer central portion. That essentially those are the 3 alternatives, but this is the shortest, one of the shortest and the first essentially provided water sample district, which is this.
Thank you. I would say that I am the least comfortable allowing a sewage pipe to run along a canal versus a drainer all the way around. Where would all the way around go?
We're talking, probably, the Doña Alberts, you can see there on the first, crossing, we essentially run north there and then turn east on O'Hara and then back down.
So it'd be going down Dairy Farm? You're saying?
Yeah.
Mr. Lack?
I sure think like, Rob, a parallel down a canal when you're watering, that gets in there and you're watering chili or onions or something like that. And that becomes a place where you can't ship those onions if you're running that water right now. That could be a very hard thing for a farmer to get around, where if it's in a drain ditch, still not good, but at least it's not gonna be a thing that just stops somebody from being able to sell a crop that's 3/4 done. It's my opinion.
Mr. Sloan?
This is basically circling your farm.
Correct.
I don't know.
So, Bohannon Houston first approached us about running through right there north of Washington, and it was gonna be on our farm. And we decided it's just something we couldn't do, to have a sewage line in the middle of the farm. So, for obvious reasons.
Thank you, Mr. Colquitt. Thank you, Mr. Sloan. So I have several concerns with these 2 permits. Would you bring up one of the 2 permits on the screen with the conditions, please?
Yes, sir.
So this. That's for a crossing.
Oh,
Bring up on
Or the parallel? Well,
Over the last several, that was one of them, I think.
I think it might be the next one. Here we go.
Thank you. This board has expressed concern about parallel utilities in our facilities over the last several years, and has expressed a requirement that parallel facilities be placed 5 feet below the invert of the facility or adjacent land, whichever is lower. And so I will note that these conditions do not comply with that direction from this board. Second, we have a current issue with a parallel sewer line that we don't understand the failure. And so given that I don't even understand the failure, I do not have enough information to apply appropriate conditions to ensure that our facilities are protected from those failures in the future. And so I am opposed to approving these 2 permits for those 2 specific reasons. Other comments from the board?
Who did, the construction on the 2-inch line that failed?
It was Caliper Construction.
Caliper. And Bohannon Houston's a good operation. It really is, but as far as me on the farming end, it was gonna interrupt way too much and be too risky.
And to be clear, I'm making no comment on any of the providers or engineers. Simply on the information that I have and the conditions that I need to set to exercise my responsibility to the members of our district in protecting their facilities. And I heard in several places that the paralleling of a lateral, the additional complexities that creates versus paralleling a drain, where you have more time to remedy the situation and potentially block the flow of it without with a less severe interruption to operations to our members. If you block a lateral to fix a problem, that can be a catastrophic interruption to operations to our members.
Greg, in my opinion, when you're running water and you have a breach, it's gonna be too late to stop it from getting into your crops. Okay, that's a, and nowadays, and once it gets to there, we have books this thick now on our flow charts for quality as your dad and all of them. And it becomes something that's, I mean, at that point, you're done. You're done. You don't even get to go try to clean it up. You don't get to test twice. You're shut down. That's unfair to all of us today, but because of that, the pressure of that breach and just that it's possible, you have it there, it's possible. It's not if, it's when. At that point, who's at risk? And if I was PK or somebody else down there on that farm and I was gonna be in a position where I'm raising chili or onion, something that's pretty fast. Now pecans, you might let it bear out and get some tests later, but I'm telling you, those vegetables that you pull out of there and you ship this next week, they're done. And I think that's a huge risk. I'd rather send it by a drain ditch where you have a little, go ahead so we can get this project in, but for God's sakes, don't put those risks of the farmer completely out of hand. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Lack. That's an excellent point. That is, we have increased regulatory compliance as well as wanting to deliver safe foods to our consumers. We need to reconsider how we permit the uses of our facilities. So we discussed it. Does the board wish to act on these permits prior to discussing the others, or do you wish to continue the discussion and then act on them afterwards?
I would wish I could permanent now.
Is there any dissent to that? Very good. So I would as a board member, you can request that any of these permits be acted on separately. I'm going to request that permits 2024, 13, and 14 be acted upon separately.
I think there's 3 and 4, the early mark 13, 14, that might be typos.
I have 13 and 14 that show parallel.
Yeah.
Well, it's her job number, so he is talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, okay,
Thank you.
that's my confusion, I'm sorry.
As listed in our license list, 2024, 13, and 14.
Oh, okay, that typo should be 3 and
I'm
4.
sorry, they are 2024 L003 and L004 are the license numbers.
Okay.
Thank you for steering me. I would ask that those two licenses be acted upon separately.
Okay.
Given that, hearing no other requests for permits to be acted upon separately, I will entertain a motion to act on those two permits at this time. Sure.
Aren't these all
Tied together.
Yeah, right.
That's what I was thinking.
So they
I
are,
think it should be all grouped together. I don't think it should be separated.
so they are all permits that have been applied for.
It's a contiguous amount.
Well, that's an excellent point. So I would, so we have a representative of the applicant present. I would ask, if I may, I would ask the applicant, if we deny any of these permits, does it effectively make the other permits unusable to you at this time?
Yes, primarily the parallel is the one of the big questions, so that.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification, Mr. Sloan. So given that, I think those two permits acted upon separately, and I withdraw my request. So for permits 2024 L-001 through 005, what is the will of the board? Mr. Roby Rosa.
Since there are options for rerouting, this sewer line, I move to deny the permits And so we get to, see other designs of the project, preferably paralleling either the drain or going on county land instead of EBID.
I have a motion for Mr. Rovirosa to deny permits 2024 L 001 through 005. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Garai. Discussion. Mr. Rovirosa's given his reasoning. I will state that I concur with Mr. Rovirosa's reasoning. I do not have sufficient information to know that our facilities will be adequately protected by the conditions of these licenses. Other discussion? Mr. Hernandez.
Just for some information for the board, I remember when the first one we came up before this board. And at that point in time, the board had an informal rule that said that the neighboring farm was to be asked by engineering whether or not they had any objections to the line affecting their farm. And it was an informal rule that we followed for years. It was never put into the regulations, but I know that a lot of deference is always given to the neighboring landowners that will be affected by the line.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I appreciate that historical information. Other discussion? Hearing no discussion is closed. All those in favor of the motion denying the permits, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the president, the ayes have it. The motion carries. The licenses are denied.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay, so next we have 2024 L 006 for the city of Las Cruces to construct, operate, and maintain a pipe portion and a new culvert crossing on the Armijo lateral from 97 plus 44 to 109 plus 00. There are special conditions, no construction allowed during irrigation season. Licensee and its agents must coordinate with EBID prior to construction. Permittee must keep the area clean and free of any equipment, vehicles, and any other encroachments. And we're referencing a previous permit we've done with the city regarding the same type of project.
So I reviewed the previous permit. I didn't quite understand its reference and how it applied. Would you please explain why it's referenced?
Yes, when it came to a certain project like this, what I believe Scott was trying to reference was we've waived fees and application fees for this sort of project as well. That's what the city's requesting with this project as well.
Thank you. Mr. Esslinger, do you have any comments on this proposal?
Yes, Mr. President, the city approached us, a month or so ago regarding, piping this section of the Armijo lateral, which, is problematic in the fact that, it's congested in that area and they're trying to reroute some traffic, on McSwain if we can, if they can bury the, that portion of the pipe, of our lateral. They're planning on putting, is it already reinforced concrete?
I think they're still discussing the actual design of it, yeah.
So certainly to our advantage, it would be to pipe this area. It also allows the city the advantage of a secondary route for fire to come in at the tail end or the south end of that red area so that they can go into those facilities there to the right. City of Hope and some other industry right there. So it gives them some capability. It's all paid for by the city. EBID is not doing anything. As far as expenditures, they did share our design. We did offer our design to them so they can put it in at the right grade. And so we have worked with the city on this, and certainly I think it's a good project for the city to undertake, right away.
Thank you. Did you have a little presentation on this permit?
Yes, I'm not sure if they're here on the line, but I believe a city representative, Kyle Iron, would like to make a comment.
Mr. Rovirosa, do you have a comment before hearing?
I just have some questions, but we can listen first.
You have the floor.
Yes, I just wanted to let you guys know I'm available to answer any questions on this project, project that is being used some money that recently became available that expires in June, so we're working pretty quickly with staff, listening together as a project that we've identified that we think is mutually beneficial to some of our concerns and some of the concerns of the board as well. And we're hoping, that we can find future opportunities. Again, my name is Kyle Arn. I'm the new engineering manager, City of Las Cruces. And want to take the opportunity to reintroduce ourselves to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Arndt.
I want to ask you a question. What's your timeline on finish? You said you're pushed by June. When would you, if you start that project, when would you get done with it? What's your time?
Right now, we're shooting for mid-May.
Mid-May out. Will we be running water mid-May?
Mr. Rosa.
So the city would pipe and maintain this section of the lateral completely. Right, so if the design were to be no good and the lateral were to collapse, would the city dig it up and repair everything?
Yes.
Would, how many farmable acres are fed by this lateral?
Yes, that's
south of this point?
It feeds south side of Las Cruces. The Armijo and the Las Cruces come together, just down here on Valley, and it feeds everything down to, where, the east side, where it drains back into the east side canal, around Berzita.
So could this be bypassed?
Yeah, that's what I see. Is there how many acres and is there an alternative route if that stops there?
The alternative route is through the Las Cruces, which takes it through the town ditch in the south main area right over here.
And there's no farmable acres between, this point?
No, this is, there is one, small tract that they will have to, they were negotiating whether they could purchase that small tract, but I don't know if that was successful. But we will have to put one turnout in, or they will, to feed that one small tract in that vicinity, but that's all that I know.
Do we have to grant any right of way or easements? In this project?
We would be granting the right of way of our canal width right in that section.
So, let me be sure I understand that we will be licensing the use of our right of way.
Licensing the use of,
Okay, we're not granting any right of way or easement.
it's just the use of it.
Thank you. Licensing the use of our right of way.
And should we wait to see all engineering on the design before we approve this project?
If you're looking to me, my answer to that would be no, as long as it's compliant with the conditions of the license.
A lot of their design is also from our design, so they're interpreting what we're giving them, so they're following majority of our initial designs that we've done in-house.
Mr. Placer.
Mr. Slingers, the Porter lateral used it all anymore.
Yes. And that's the heading of it. We would be connecting to the heading of the Porter lateral.
Start.
There's a dirt road down through there, right? Are they gonna be paving a road?
There, I do not believe there is a dirt road. We had a canal bank that people drive on.
Would you explain that? Well, paralleling that canal is McSwain. It's a street.
Is it on your EBID property or?
It's close to it.
So are they paving it now or what?
And that I don't know what the city plans to do, but I assume they would be because they're trying to connect to that intersection on the south end and perhaps maybe divert some traffic to.
So that'd be another permit, right? To pave it?
This
No,
license.
not if it's on our property. It's not on our property. The street that you're referring to is not on our property. So if they pave it, it's their.
If they wish to pave part of our right of way, that would require a license.
If I may address, the intent of this project is to provide a safety secondary access into the community. We have some security concerns with the operations of that location at Ricochet, getting in and out, and identifying a second location where we can get folks in and out. Should there be some kind of disturbance on the site, is really beneficial to us. And so we're looking at this opportunity up there in this canal through this section as an opportunity to provide a secondary access on the McSwain development.
And so to be clear, if they were crossing the lateral in this section, that would also require a license. I suspect they have not quite identified exactly their solution there yet.
Yeah, that'll have to be part of a phase two. Is exactly how we're gonna, what that crossing is gonna look like. Again, we're trying to make use of some money that's expiring really quickly. It's a quasi design build, we're taking as much information as we can from the district, incorporating it into the design. We've elected to use reinforced concrete pipe, which is considerably more expensive, especially when you get to the side. But the purpose of that is to provide some assurances that we're not gonna be in there trying to fix things down the road.
And certainly if you have vehicle traffic going over it, this and emergency vehicle traffic.
Yeah.
It would warrant the extra design elements of reinforced concrete. Other comments? I will mention based on the licenses I've reviewed in the past, based on my understanding of this area, I believe it is in the interest of the district to license this use. It is within the interest of this district in excess of the land use fees that they're asking to be waived for this project to be completed. I support the approval of this license. I support the waiving the fees for this license. Other comments?
So it's gonna be plugged in, or it's gonna be plugged, covered, and people are gonna use that road.
No.
As a road, those that have.
No, our canal bank or our pipe covering area is not a road. They are the facilities of the district. We are not permitting its use for vehicle traffic at this time. There is a parallel road, McSwain, to it, that the city can continue to use as long as it doesn't encroach on our land. That would be my understanding of it.
And by putting that pipeline, it gives them a little more wiggle room to be able to do their job. Where before, say you're trying to put maintenance or build a ditch there and everything goes in the ditch and falls in the road and they can't operate, but if they've got a cover there, they're not gonna be using it for regress or access water. They could be using it to get to the place that they need to work. Does that make sense?
Yes,
That's kind of what they're.
There are design constraints when it's a canal bank versus when it's covered pipeline. Mr. Sloan.
Why are you supporting the waive the fee?
I support waiving the fee because of the benefits to the district that we will receive in piping this section of the Armijo lateral.
And also because Las Cruces is paying for the entirety of the project.
That is correct. That's correct. That so effectively our cost in this is the waiving of the fee. And it is my opinion that our benefits far outweigh the value of the fee.
I concur.
Mr. Robirosa.
Mr. President, is there any method to limit access to pipe or like to the entrance of the pipes of pipe portions of the laterals?
Are you talking about in the flow area? In the area of water flow, or are you talking?
Yes.
Mr. Esslinger?
I believe we're working with, Kyle and the city to put trash screens that we normally do in the interior laterals of the city to keep the trash from plugging up these pipelines. So are you coming to house? So they are designed at an angle, so the trash can be collected and not get inside.
Very good, thank you.
Keep the homeless from camping.
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. Okay, so following, we have 2024 L007 for Jonathan Koenig to operate, construct, operate, and maintain 3 irrigation ditch pipeline crossings the Bracito River lateral at approximate station 78+00, 87+00, and 105+00. Pipe must be constructed and maintained to have a 12-inch minimum freeboard between the bottom of the pipe and the high water mark of the canal and a 12-inch cover of pipe If adding materials required to achieve the cover of the pipe, must do so approved base course material and taper to no steeper than 1 inch vertical per 1 foot horizontal without narrowing the bank. We do require metal pipe across the entirety of the EBID right of way. As you can see, it's gonna be right here by Sales Road, and it's be crossing these 3 areas on the Bracito River lateral. Following 2024 L008 Stallman Farms to construct, operate, and maintain a new irrigation pipe to pump in and pump out water from the California lateral at approximate stations 164 plus 55. They must comply with our policy 2003 OPs 10. Water orders must be in place prior to the discharge during delivery season. Licensing must prevent discharge from creating erosion of the EBID canal or bank, and EBID can require that concrete lining or riprap be placed at the licensee expense. No construction during irrigation season, and they must coordinate with us with construction.
Mr. Roverosa?
Let me start by saying I will not be voting on these permits. I will abstain.
Mr. Roverosa, if you were about to provide testimony on this permit, I would advise against it. You're gonna be abstaining, moving in and out of your roles as a witness versus a governor. I would advise against providing testimony on these permits. Very well, I will not say anything. I believe the permits speak for themselves.
Here we are, by the California, it's by the California lateral. That's where they will do the pump in, pump out. Policy. Following, we have 2024 L009 for Stallman Farms. Construct, operate, and maintain 2 buried 10-inch irrigation pipelines and electrical conduits from existing wells crossing to Santo Tomas at approximate stations 53 plus 96, 77 plus 12, and a concrete pump structure at approximate station 77 plus 12. We're using the same conditions as before. Backfill of excavated areas must be returned to the original compacted state or exceed. It's gonna be by the Santo Tomas here. South of the river, or west of the river. I believe that concludes the permits.
Very good, thank you very much. So the president would request that permit 2024 L-008 and 009 for Stallman Farms be acted upon separately. Are there any other permits that wish to be acted upon separately in this last week before? Hearing none, with regards to permits 008 and 009, what's the will of the board? I have a motion to approve permits 2024 L-008 and 009. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Clayfield, I believe it was. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
In the opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries, the licenses are approved. So that brings us to the remaining 2, 2024 L-006 and 007. What is the will of the board? So this is the permit for the city of Las Cruces and the permit for the irrigation ditch pipeline crossing. Mr. Frangeli.
Were you guys gonna waive the fees in the Stallman permits?
Yes, we have approved them as presented.
Okay.
Are we voting on these two at the same time, or we?
So no one has asked to vote on them separately, so at this point in time, we would.
I would like to vote
together. So there's been a request to act on them separately. So, given that, what is so we now have 2 individual licenses to be acted upon. What is the will of the board?
I'd like to.
Mr. Slow,
This is 007.
it could be either one.
Yeah, I move to accept, for Jonathan Koenig for his permit.
There's a motion to approve license 2024-L-007 by Mr. Sloan, seconded by Mr. Colquitt. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. That leaves us, 006 to act upon. What is the will of the board?
I move to approve, L 006.
I have a motion to approve, license 2024-L-006.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lack. Discussion. Hearing none.
James, were you thinking of waiving the fee, or I mean, not
I
waiving the
just,
fee?
yeah, I just kind of feel like we should, at this point, we should not, I don't think we should not waive the fee, but maybe.
I'll second that.
That is a motion to amend the motion to deny the waiver of the fee. Seconded by Mr. Colquitt. Discussion on the amendment.
Question.
Mr.
How much is
Clayton.
the fee? Sure.
So
$27.90.
$2,800. So I will again restate that it is my opinion that the benefit of the district outweigh the value of the fee. These are the type of projects we wish to encourage. And so I support waiving the fee. I oppose the amendment. Mr. Rosa.
Since the city of Las Cruces is going to maintain this portion of the lateral, and I believe that it's beneficial to both EBID and the city of Las Cruces, I do not believe that we should charge them.
Did you have a comment, Mr. Lund?
EBID has put a little bit of time, I suppose, into this themselves. I mean, there's nothing, just pure manpower. Of analyzing and bringing this to the.
So there's an application fee. Did the city of Las Cruces pay the application fee?
They're requesting for that is waived as well.
Okay, they paid, did they pay it at the time of the application?
Going off of a previous, permit we've done where we have waived those application fees, we were going off of that as well.
Very good. So that is in addition to the $2,800,
Yes,
and the approximate value of the application fee is
$324.
$324.
3,000.
So you can breathe out, give or take. Other discussion on the amendment. We will vote on the amendment. The amendment is to deny the waiver of fees. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Mr. President,
Oh. I hold the vote.
can we vote on these two items separately?
Yes, the absolute, we're voting on the amendment for the fee.
No, can we, there's the application fee, the license fee, right? Right, do I understand correctly?
So there is an application fee, there is a land use fee. And my understanding is the land use fee is $2,800. The
Yes.
application fee is $325.
That's correct.
I like to understand, so.
So
I know it's complicated. but-
it is, so that's it. I want to be sure I understand. So I have an amendment, the current amendment is to just deny waiving the fees entirely. My recommendation, Mr. Clayton, will be to act on that amendment first. And if there's an additional amendment to somehow split out a portion of the fees, that it would be appropriate at that time, depending on the resolution of the amendment.
I don't think we should forgive the application fee. Our staff put some time into it. I think we should pay for that. The other.
Thank you. So the motion is to amend to deny the waiver of the fees. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion is closed. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
In the opinion of the president, the nays have it and the motion fails. So because it was close, I want to be clear what that means. That's my opinion. Any member of this board can request a division of the assembly, in which case we will take the vote by roll. Not hearing that, we will return to the original motion. Did you wish to make a separate amendment? Mr.
I'd like to make an amendment that we do not waive the application fee.
So there is a motion to deny the waiver of the application fee only.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ludwig. Discussion.
Greg, one thing you might ask this gentleman down here, what's the total amount that y'all are putting in on this project? Total money?
It's gonna be a bit north of $500,000, somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million.
For $300? I mean, it's just my opinion, John. That's a lot of money that they're putting in with us on a deal and goodwill and the fact that they're showing that we're working with each other. A lot of times we've had a lot of trouble with the city and this guy has come on board and he's been working with us better by a huge amount than others. I mean, you don't have to do it, but for the sake of goodwill, I'd say waiver this and do, but that's just not because of this amount of willingness to work with us on projects. That's my opinion.
And I essentially concur with Mr. Light's sentiment by opposing motion. Any other discussion? From the board? Mr. Francois.
I think that the argument was made that, you know, it'll account for staff time, and while I do agree with that, that does affect our staff time put into the project. It's extended out by their staff time with ongoing maintenance for the project or the license for the permit, which is 10 years, right, Juan?
Yes, sir.
So ongoing maintenance will be assumed by their staff for 10 years. So I just want to throw it out.
Mr. Roby Rutherford.
Question, will maintenance be assumed by us again 10 years later? Or what?
It depends on renewal of the license.
Salvatore.
Mr. President, is there any concern that you're wanting to not waive an application fee that's not noted here? That application fee isn't included in this
On
line.
the total, okay.
That's an excellent point. So, if I understand the question raised by Ms. Santaveros, we have, other permits, licenses on this list where we've approved the waiver of fees. Did we waive their application fee?
Yes, sir.
We did. Thank you. So,
I have it on screen here. We have the admin fee waived and the land use fee
no,
waived.
I'm sorry, not the,
For like Jonathan's one.
Oh,
correct. The
Oh,
the other,
the other.
the other licenses on today's agenda.
no, okay.
Was that a no?
For anyone else asking for a permit application fee
So we
waived?
had other licenses on this agenda
Mhm.
where we approved the waiver of fees.
Mhm.
Did they pay their application?
Yes.
So the other licenses do pay their application fee, generally at the time of applying for the license.
Mhm.
I still oppose the motion, but that is a
That's the board.
very valid point. Any other discussion? Thank you, Mrs. Salisbury. Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor of the motion to amend to deny the waiver of the application fee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Any of the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries. The original motion is amended to deny the application of the $324 application fee. To deny the waiver of it. So the motion on the floor is to approve this permit, waiving the land use fee, but not the application fee. Discussion. Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any president, the ayes have it, the motion carries, the license is granted, the $324 application fee is requested to be paid. You have the floor, sir.
I believe that was all of you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 10 on our agenda, the HR and safety update.
We weren't able to get that before you, our HR.
I believe it's in the packet.
It's in your electronic packet.
Oh,
I
electronic
just
packet.
skipped printing it.
Okay, it wasn't printed.
There you go.
Yes, Our total employee count is 79 employees at the present time. We have hired 2 more ditch riders for the north area. We've hired a mechanic, the central, and an equipment operator in the central, and a SCADA technician here in the central area. We're still testing for ditch riders, equipment operators, and a director of engineering. We've interviewed 1 candidate for director of engineering. We have no recognitions in February as the years of service, except for the February north area is Jeffrey Castillo, has been with us for 19 years. And in the in the south area, the maintenance maintenance employee is Santiago Romero. He's been with us for 4. We're continuing our in-house training, tailgate meetings, and we have no workman's comp injuries to report. And again, at years of service, we have 5 employees that have been with us over 30 years, 14 employees that have been with us between 21 and 30 years, 13 employees between 10 and 20 years, and now we have 47 employees with us below 10 years of employment. And that is the conclusion of my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Esslinger. Any questions on the HR and safety update? Mr. Clayshall?
Enlighten me a little bit. We gave a contract to Zach Linden for engineering. Why do we need a director of engineering also? Help me understand what the difference is.
The license, the contract we gave to Zach was for work that he does outside of the district as a consultant for us, engineering consultant. We still need a director of engineering to establish the leadership role over our entire department. Zach being no longer an employee, I need someone in-house to do that, to operate and maintain the function of the engineering department. Zach, again, would be used by this director of engineering to help educate the new engineer on assignments that Zach is aware of, but the new director isn't.
How many people are in the engineering department?
See, about 7.
Thank you.
And I will add on to that. Mr. Libin has a PE license. It is extraordinarily difficult to recruit people that already have a PE license. Those individuals are required to work under the supervision of an individual with a license, which Mr. Libin would provide under his contract, until such time as we are able to license whoever it is we hire. What's the period of time required for supervision under a PE? You know, Mr. Esslinger?
Normally, when we have someone in-house that doesn't have a PE, it takes about a year to get that PE license or sooner, and then there's about a 2-year internship.
Thank you. Other questions regarding the HR and safety update? Mr. Rosa?
Mr. Etzinger, Mr. President, is the project engineer 1 step below the director of engineering? You have project engineer and director of engineering.
Let me see. On the HR deal?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There you go. We're just testing for the director of engineering. I don't see on my, project engineer up here, I see. Yes, we have that on hold.
And it's a separate position. Would you
Yeah,
explain
it's
what
a
that
separate,
position is?
it's a
Mr. Esslinger?
separate position. We normally have a junior engineer who left us and we haven't replaced him yet. My concern is that we replace the director of engineering first and then let the director of engineering decide if he needs the junior engineer or not.
So the project engineers and junior engineers. Thank you.
Other questions regarding the HR update? Mr. Rosa?
One more question. Why is the ditch rider for the south on hold?
That is only because, we have. I would probably refer that to James Narvaez. He would probably be the one that would understand.
Mr. Narvaez.
Yes, sir. The position's not necessarily on hold. It's just we're still actively looking for a position. We had one that didn't work out that we thought we were gonna be able to replace. So right now, we're kind of looking at an alternative just in case we can't find anybody, then we'll just use our maintenance like we did last season, but we're still actively kind of looking for a position.
So are we looking for 3 ditch riders right now, or are we looking for 2, 1 in the north and 1 in the south?
We think we're okay covered right now for the north, so we've essentially closed that. We just hired 2 ditch riders for the north area, and the central we're closed as well. The south is the only one that we were lacking. And it's also depending on maybe an employee that we're still kind of haven't got the full response yet, whether they will be retiring this year or not. So it's one of those things that we're kind of working through right now.
So was this top portion updated, recently, or like, was it updated after we hired these 2 ditch riders for the north? Because it still says 1 north and 1 south.
I'm not sure that the report, I didn't get a chance to speak with Lisa or HR.
I did that about a week and a half ago.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Other questions regarding the HR, the safety of him? Hearing none, I believe this is, for our newly elected directors, your first suspension and transfer hearing. It's a little more formal process than we have in the rest of our board meeting. In order to ensure that we are as compliant as possible with state law with regards to property rights. So at this time, this board is convened to act upon application by landowners in the district to transfer water rights pertinent to lands within the district which are not suitable for irrigation or capable of being properly irrigated to other lands within the district. These applications are filed under section 73-13-4 of the New Mexico statutes. This board will decide if, within their judgment, the other lands within the district may be profitably and advantageously irrigated. The applicants are identified as listed on Exhibit A. The applicants were required to publish notice in any newspaper published within Doñana County of EBID taking action to consider a resolution allowing the transfer. The publication should have listed the time and place of this meeting, listed the action to be taken by this board, listed a description of the move to and move from lands, and listed the reason for the transfer, for the requested transfer. Does staff have a copy of the notice of publication?
Yes, sir, we do.
Were all of the required points in the publication?
Yes, sir.
Was the last publication date made prior to this hearing?
Yes, sir.
We will now proceed with presentations by staff. After that, the board members can ask questions of staff.
Good morning. Almost noon. Happy Valentine's. We have 9 voluntary suspensions for a total of 5.06 to be suspended, and staff recommends approval on all 9.
Are there any questions from the board for staff? Mr. Robbie Rosa.
Mr. President, so all of these will not be transferred to any other land. They're suspended. Are they suspended indefinitely?
I don't have a copy of the resolution, do you?
Yeah.
They are, moved to, EBID owned property, so it'll be,
Pool.
pardon me,
We call it a pool.
that's right.
Very good, thank you. So they're not suspended, that they can be moved from EBID property to someone else that are irrigated.
Yes.
Any other questions of staff? At this point in time, the board will take evidence and testimony from the applicants or their representatives or any persons who are here to protest the applications. We will proceed with any presentation by the applicants. After that, the board members and EBID staff can ask questions of the applicants. Would the applicants or their representatives introduce themselves?
If you want to make sure if I mute.
So if you are attending via Zoom and you are an applicant, we are going to try to ensure that you are recognized. So if you're an applicant, when we unmute you, please speak up.
Mr. President, I believe everybody on is not an applicant.
Thank you. And I see no one identifying themselves in the audience. Are there any protestants who wish to speak? If so, please identify yourselves for the record. Again, I see no one identifying themselves. Are there any other comments? So I will make a comment addressing Mr. Robirosa's question. Water rights must be pertinent to land. EBID has deed to a large quantity of land, which are the district facilities. And so these water rights are pertinent to land that EBID owns. At this point in time, EBID has suspended the acquisition of those rights from the district to be determined at a future time by the board of directors, how they wish to what they wish the disposition of those water rights to be. Any other comments? The chair will now entertain a motion to have a resolution to approve or disapprove the applications, and I will note the resolution number is 2024 S&T 02.
Move to approve resolution 2024 S&T 02.
Have a motion by Mr. Robirosa to approve,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Garai. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the president, the ayes have it, the motion carries. I will ask that the resolution be formalized as called for by section 73-13-5 of the New Mexico statutes, and that the secretary of the board immediately certify and file with the state engineer a true copy of the resolution and action of the board. If there are any protestants who disagree with the action of the board, you may appeal this decision directly to the district court as provided under section 73-13-4 of the New Mexico statute. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn the board's sitting to hear applications. We're just adjourning the suspension and transfer hearing.
I move so.
I have a motion from Mr. Sloan to adjourn the board sitting as suspension for suspension and transfer hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Clayshall. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Suspension and
President.
transfer hearing is closed. Thank you very much.
Board.
All right. I do believe that concludes our open session agenda. Is lunch here? I think I saw them coming in. So at this point in time, I will accept a motion to recess for lunch.
I'll make that one.
I have a motion by Mr. Clayson, recess for lunch, seconded by Mr. Gry. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. We are in recess. Madam Secretary, would you please pause the recording and leave us?